Hi there. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us as we recap Cultivate 2023 and talk about what spring kind of held for growers. My name is Rain Carpenter, and I'm on the marketing team here at Velosio. Everyone is muted, and today's session will be recorded, but that will be sent to you later today. But jot down any questions you have as we go and submit those because we will save time for some Q&A at the end. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Todd and Melissa, our Cultivate veterans. So here we go. Let's get this off.
Awesome. Thanks, Rain. We're excited to be with all of you today. Thanks for being here. So my name is Melissa Harpst. I am an industry account executive. I forgot my title there.
Is that what you are?
What am I? I'm an industry account executive. I've been working in the industry for Velosio for over 5 years and been here helping clients with technology decisions for over 10. So excited to walk through some of our agenda today. So Todd is also joining me. So Todd, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Todd Waterman. I'm a pre-sales solution engineer at Velosio. Been here. Actually, we've been doing this for 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
I know. It does.
But I work closely with Melissa to, go through the sales process.
Thanks, Todd. And then
I've been to Cultivate many, many, many times.
You have. So we had a great time last week. And ultimately what we wanted to share today is kind of some of our feedback in recapping on that session. So in today's agenda, we're going to talk about, Charlie's State of the Industry address, always a great and very insightful session. Talk a little bit about Silverleaf and what we did there, some customer feedback that we heard while we were there, and also some standouts. So this is always a fun webinar to do, so let's go ahead and get started. So first, everybody loves attending Charlie Hall's session, and of course Ken presents, and the other gentleman, Rick Ruth, who does the politics update on DC, which is also insightful. But what I'm going to talk about is really sharing some of the highlights from Charlie's presentation. So, this year he really kicked off by saying, how did the industry fare in this past spring? And he made some comparisons really across the board from how were we this year, how is this spring compared to last, and then also how were your numbers compared to pre-pandemic? Because what it shows really is that a lot of folks are really much better off than we were pre-pandemic. So that is really, really positive to see. So from gross sales, this year compared to last, we saw 75% at the same point or higher. The people who were down, he said, were really impacted by weather. And then gross sales compared to pre-pandemic, 100% were even or up. Net profitability, what we saw for this over last year, 69% were holding or up. And he said the ones that were down were really because of rising input costs. So many folks in the industry did raise their own prices, but he surmises that maybe not enough. And then when we look at how we were this past spring compared to pre-pandemic, he said 78%, a higher number, were holding or up. So that's really positive. Units sold, what was interesting, he compared, pre-pandemic, 89% were up. When we look at last year, 72% were up and 20% were marginally up. So there's not a huge growth there. And one aspect he talked about, the big box growers, is that we saw from units sold that Walmart was really increasing this year. And he indicated that that's an indicator of, obviously, when we have inflation at play, people really do start shopping more at Walmart than maybe the Targets or other.
Right. Try to go cheaper. But I think this news is so good because we had such a boom, during the pandemic. So that was the question. We got 2 million something new gardeners. Are they going to stay around? And they really seem like they are. So the fact that, they're holding is to last year and the year before, that's very, very good news.
That is good news. And, Charlie also started his presentation by saying, last year when he spoke, he said, look, I can say that we have a 50% likelihood of having a recession by this time next year. And so he started off saying, I was 100% accurate.
That's right.
We had a 50-50 chance of having it and not having it. So we have not had a recession yet. So he was 100% accurate in that. So let's see, he also shared like what will impact the industry going forward. So certainly overall growth of the economy.
Right, always.
Has been a big topic of conversation over the past few years. Labor availability and cost of inputs. Housing market, certainly that housing market correction has an impact, the inflation, and then the likelihood of recession. So that's really what he walked through. And some of the highlights, what we saw was that the global supply chain, which really has been an issue through the pandemic, is back to normal, like better than it has been in a long time. So
hallelujah.
Supply chain is not going to be our issue. So that's good.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm. He said the projected input cost increases, we see not big input cost increases for the green industry, but what he did really call out was that if you look at the past 4 years, the green industry has had a 22% increase in input costs. And so he definitely wanted to call out, if you haven't raised prices in 4 years, then you are definitely you're sharing your profit margin with your customers. So for those of you out there who haven't looked at that.
Yeah, look at 2021. So even if it's 1.9 this year, it was 10.1 then. So they're still reeling from that.
Totally. And this was exciting news. He wanted to call out the millennials because he talks about our market being really tied to the housing market. And so as the housing market has really cooled off with rising interest rates, what he's showing here is that if we look at the backlog of first-time home buyers aged 25 to 35, Rain Carpenter's in this category, there is an unprecedented number of first-time home buyers coming onto the market right now. And that, so what he's talking about is, the millennials, that the millennials are really going to help pull us through if we do hit, this recession, because there's this huge backlog of housing demand. So we need 1.7 million units each year to meet that demand until 2030. And so when we have houses being built, we see plant sales going up. And so it's really the millennials who are going to do the industry a lot of good here in the near future. So go Rain. The other thing he looked at is consumer outlays versus capacity to spend. And so what he's looking at is really this purple line is personal savings. And so that wages are coming up, but personal savings is coming down marginally. But what he called out is that the middle and upper class families who usually do buy plants will have the capacity and should have the capacity to buy flowers and shrubs, even if a recession hits early next year.
Nice.
Yeah. And in closing, he does think that there's a high probability of a mild, short-lived downturn, likely in the beginning of 2024. And so his advice is really to resist irrational exuberance.
That's a tough one.
Manage your working capital and focus on value. So ultimately, when you are looking to make decisions, focus on the value for the outcome of those decisions. So that is my reflection or summation of Charlie's materials and presentation.
He's so great. I mean, I'm dating myself, but if you remember possibly the E.F. Hutton commercials, it was always when E.F. Hutton talks, everybody is quiet and listening. And I really, that is Charlie Hall in a nutshell. I mean, he really is, because he comes from the industry, he teaches. And anyway, just can't say enough about him. I actually had him as a moderator for a day with a meeting of owners. That was the most entertaining 8 hours ever. It was great.
I bet that would have been amazing. Well, good. So I think the next thing we're going to talk about is really our experience at the show. So we were really excited, certainly this year, to share the work that we were doing in the industry. So last year's show was really the first time that we revealed our own IP, Silverleaf, related to the industry for Microsoft Dynamics 365 BC. So this was our second year really sharing how we have taken, from our work in the industry over the past now 6 years, we've done these customizations for unique requirements. And so now, instead of just doing it a little bit different every way, we're turning it into standard product that's supportable and supports best practices for the industry. So, having components to better help inventory and availability, quality, production, finance, costing. So that was really, really exciting for us to come out and share that again.
It was last year was great, but we were kind of just trying to explain to everybody what we were doing and that, so it was great. And we've accomplished so much in a year. I can't believe where the product has come, and on the latest version in the cloud, as modern as you can get.
Yeah, and so I was excited this show to really come across some prospective customers who we have talked to, say 2-3 years ago, even over a year ago, who have not yet made decisions and are looking to re-engage to say, hey, okay, tell me what you're doing now versus where you are and how you're helping the industry. So
yeah,
I'm doing that. And then I've got a few snapshots of our booth. We had a great team in place. So marketing was strong. So Rain and Rick Hall were there. Todd and myself were there. We had Jennifer Phoenix, who's the director of our BC horticulture practice. So she's the one, her team delivers the solutions after we work with clients through the sales process. We had Sarah Silver there, who's the director of our horticulture solution. So that's exciting. What keeps us entertained in the booth is we have these fun giveaways. So if you came by and maybe got a key and tried to see if the key would work the lock, there are a few lucky winners who did open that lock and win the big prize. So we had actually five companies win. So we put out
those big winners. But I think it was great having Jennifer there and Sarah, because we're talking to prospective customers, but also our customers either have booths or are there, and it was just great having her to be able to have those sidebar conversations with our existing customers and stuff like that. I think she just really brings a lot of confidence.
Yeah, for sure.
And Sarah too, of course, is always our ringleader.
That's right. And we had fun too. We hosted a happy hour on Sunday night. And so I'm coming off some excitement from seeing Taylor Swift. So friendship bracelets and said we're in our Cultivate era. So not only did my daughter make us bracelets for the show, I brought my bracelet supplies to the happy hour.
And I couldn't believe it. Everybody was into it. It was so funny. I texted my daughter. I'm surrounded by this right now. She's going actually next week. And that exact same kit of stuff is all over my dining room table. So I'm familiar with the era thing. I know more than I ever thought I would want to.
It's so funny.
But yeah, it was great. It was really good.
Let's see here, and a little customer feedback. So Todd, you want to go through this?
Yeah, I think that, the great mood, upbeat and positive. I think, I always say that Cultivate's really, we can get the pulse of the industry. It's such a great time because, one, everybody comes off kind of in May or whatever, they slow down. So they've had a little bit of time to breathe, probably vacation. Everybody goes before or after Cultivate to vacation. And so you can really get a good feel of, how everything went. I can remember going to Cultivate in 2008. It was like a morgue, because everything had just collapsed, really, the housing market and all that, and everybody had already bought all their inputs and kind of were in the middle of it when that happened. And so this year was not like that at all. This was even more upbeat than last year. I think last year attendance was way up after the pandemic, and this was even higher. There was a late start, always it's weather, so there was a late start to spraying. I talked to a few customers, that was saying, they were really not doing too well because of the weather and that. And then June, usually where they're really kind of ramping down, was huge. So they caught all back up. It's such a gamble in the industry having to depend on the weather and that. But overall, it was really positive results. So that was really great to hear.
Yeah, very good. And I will say on the other side, I had some conversations about just labor with folks and just
Labor is always an issue.
and how best figuring out I'll say the H2A, but those programs that a lot of growers seem to really rely on. And it sounds like some of them have experienced some really big cost increases just out of the blue. That's really tough to manage. So hopefully through the work that, AmeriHort is helping us do in DC, that'll help us get those programs better in line so growers can access the programs.
I mean, labor really is now for sure, the biggest cost of the product really, and really the toughest to deal with.
Yeah. Very good. And then some standouts. Well, certainly Charlie.
Yes,
And
Charlie Hall's always a big standout.
And I'm so bummed I missed this session. Like I had written it down, I had flagged it, but then totally I scheduled over it. But Charlie and Gary Cortez from Flow Vision did a session together on calculating product cost based on lean techniques. And so those two together, that must have been a really fantastic.
I missed that too. That's the trouble with sitting in the booth all day. But I went through, and I encourage everybody. I believe you can go to to download the PowerPoint. Or can anybody go do that, Melissa?
So
I know you're not supposed to display it or show it, but I think people can download it for their own.
Yeah. I know the people who attended could get a link, and they sent it when they requested it from Charlie. So okay. I think
if you can get it, I think that it was such a great way to go through it. And with Gary Cortez, really is not about the software or any of that stuff, more about the processes and the lean processes. But the way that Charlie went through and gave the examples, like I learned a lot from just looking at the PowerPoint. It was such a real clear cut, really easy examples of how to, figure out costing for your products and different ways to do it. And that's something, the industry's been wanting forever. And I would say most companies probably, in our experience, don't really know their costs that well, and they really want to get there. Yeah. But I think that was just a brilliant way to show it, and also to couple it with Gary talking about ways to save costs and that because of your processes and everything, and getting to where, going through a value stream mapping, they call it, of like, how many times do we touch this product, and every time we touch it, are we adding value? Well, if not, like, how do you eliminate that step? And then that stuff, really goes a long way. And so a lot of our prospects and our customers have used Flow Vision. And usually, it's a great thing to do even before you are looking at software to really, work on those processes and everything. And so then when you get the software going hand in hand, it really makes a huge impact.
Agreed.
And the attendance was up, and all the facility tours were sold out, and that it just was great to see all the buses pulling up and all the people coming and going. And I know it's been a few years from the pandemic, but I just get so excited seeing more and more people and seeing faces and all that. The Velosio happy hour was, a big success, and it's, that's a gamble in itself. Everybody is so busy, and everybody's inviting everybody to different happy hours and mixers and that. So we had ours, I believe, on Sunday night, and it was great. And there was even bracelets, like you saw. It was awesome. And then Unplugged was another one I didn't get to, but I heard lots about it. That's like a big party over there. And, with all the, really young people in the industry and everything like that. So they gave out some awards and stuff, and that was really cool. I heard big things about that. I'm too old now to go out late at night, so I hid in my hotel room. I used to be a big Unplugged guy.
That's right.
And I also threw on their nightlife, just the fact of going to the restaurants and any bars. I mean, we stayed at the Hyatt and the big bar there, which used to be, the spot there, which you know, now we got the Hilton, but they're connected. But man, the first night I got there, I was going to go to bed early because of the time change, and man, everybody was in there. And Pride's Corner sponsored a band that was doing all sorts of cool stuff. It was just really great. You could just feel the momentum. It was really cool.
That is cool. It's such a great show. All right, well, that completes what we wanted to walk through and share with you guys today. So thanks for listening. I don't know if we've got, Rain, if we've got any questions that came in.
Oh, you're muted.
We do have some questions. This was my first Cultivate, though, I wanted to add, and I just wanted to say it's a really, really cool trade show. I'm new to the industry, and there's just a lot of things that you can do outside of walking the expo to get to know people, to see different solutions. So I thought it was awesome. But
the networking is incredible there. I mean, because
yeah,
everybody in the industry is there.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Well, Dave asked, how long does it typically take to implement technology like Silverleaf?
You can take that, Melissa.
So I would say certainly it depends on the capabilities that we're looking to set up. So if we've got, you know, finance and sales and purchasing and inventory and availability and production, you know, if we had one location, one company doing kind of all the core things, I mean, to really do it well, it is commonly at least a 6-month project. Depending on that, depends on how much time the client has to focus, because it is hard to do your day-to-day job and also really evoke change and put in systems to address a lot of these main functional areas.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, do you recommend a certain time of year for growers to adopt an ERP?
Yeah, in their slow time or the
Yes.
blackout period, we call it. You know, everybody's like, between this date and this date, we can't even talk to you. You know, everybody has that head down super crazy, depending if you're you know, young plants is earlier, you know, finished is later, but so it seems every company has this crazy period that they can't do anything. So definitely, we're always shooting for that, usually to figure out when that is, and so they can really digest it. I think, you know, we've had some prospects this season that were really talking with us and going through demonstrations and that in the middle of the season, which is rare. It's a lot to juggle. So I would say definitely try to target your, you know, usually it's in the summer, like after Cultivate and, you know, up until September and that. But, you know, we work around your schedule, so whatever's best for you.
Yeah, we're commonly jockeying, you know, starting a project, then jockeying busy season, then going live when it's quiet. So we're commonly stretching the busy season, kind of putting things on hold until they can come back from that.
Right. Sometimes accounting, you know, we can work with accounting and stuff like that and kind of start some of the other departments that aren't in the thick of it, but yeah.
Okay. Is there support available long-term?
Yeah.
There is. So we have dedicated support resources. So, you know, we scope a project to get clients live. And then ongoing, we have dedicated support resources that both know Dynamics and also know Silverleaf.
Sweet. Well, like I said at the beginning, today's session was recorded and will be in your inbox later today. Thank you for taking time to join us. We will have some webinars coming up that we'll be sure that you get an invite to as well. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
See you.
Take care.